It's Spook-tober with Afterglow.
Hello and welcome back to Afterglow, episode 115. And in this episode, here's a callback. If you remember way back whenever I covered Symphony of the Night, I had mentioned that it was not my first Metroidvania Castlevania game. And we're finally covering the first one I played, which is Circle of the Moon on Game Boy Advance. Got some happy memories of this one, some frustrating memories from this one, but not necessarily due to the game, but maybe because of the hardware I was playing it on. But first, let's give a quick shout out to our patrons. As always, we want to thank our patrons, OCD in every RPG, and Texan Toby with Big Red Flavor. Thank you guys for donating to the show every month. I do really appreciate what you guys do. And of course, if you'd like to join in and get a shout outs, just check out the Patreon in the show notes. Like I said, you can listen there, and if you even don't want to donate, there's sometimes a new post over there, a new little news clip, if you want to check it out. But, of course, as always, thank you so much for even taking time out of your day to listen. And now we're going to continue on with Spook-tober. I've got at least 2 or 3 games I'm going to try to cover this month. Not sure if I'm going to get to 4, but I definitely have 2 or 3. I've got 1 guest host lined up for one of them, which is going to be really fun. And then the others, I think, are all going to be solo episodes this year. But I really hope you guys enjoy listening to my memories, in one episode's case, our memories of these games that are all either horror games or at least have some kind of scary element. And just a quick surprise, there will be no Star Trek game at the end of this episode. Not because I don't want to do it, but because I think I've burned through all of the retro games that ran off the Star Trek IP. So, Games of Secret Levels he'll be celebrating, although I've played a lot of modern Star Trek games, so maybe one of those will get a special episode one of these days. So, maybe quiver in fear over that. But while you're shaking in your boots over that, let's give you something else to shake your boots into, right? Let's listen to a music track from Circle of the Moon before we get into my memories of the game. And welcome back. So this game I got from a video game store called McVan's over in Evansville, Indiana. I was in college at the time, and the Game Boy Advance had just come out. And whenever I got my Game Boy Advance, I got, I believe, Mario Advance and Mario Kart with it. So, brand new system just launched. I brought it to class with me over the weekend, because if it's a handheld, of course I'm going to play it in breaks. It's a new handheld on launch, heck yeah. So we all went out to eat, and we decided to stop by McVan's, and I was going to grab another game for it. And I asked one of my college buddies, hey, you know, what do you recommend for this thing that you see on the shelf? I'll try whatever. And she's like, ooh, Castlevania's always been good. I'm like, oh, they got a Castlevania game for it. So, interesting note, the Game Boy Advance had Castlevania Circle of the Moon as a launch title. Didn't know this at the time. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I enjoyed the NES Castlevania games, but I hadn't really played one since. So, I grab it, and I'm give it a try, and I'm expecting, like, those NES-style Castlevania controls, kind of stiff, locked-in controls, and they don't exist in this game. Also, this game looked a lot like Metroid to me. Like, even the map from Super Metroid and the map from this, they looked pretty identical. So I learned really quick this is more of an exploration game than an old-school Castlevania game, and that was right at my alley at the time. I was thrilled to see that. And keep in mind, at this time, I had no clue about Symphony of the Night, so this is my first Castlevania-style Metroidvania game. However, I found a big problem, and it's not necessarily with the game. So if you play it these days, and you can purchase it legally on the Castlevania Advance Collection, it's available like all consoles on Steam everywhere, so it's easy to get a hold of. The game looks good. It looks fine. It's easily playable. The original launch Game Boy Advance did not come with a backlight, and this is a very dark game. And you can't really tell if you're playing it on a new modern-day screen, but you had to hold that thing absolutely perfectly whenever you played this game, because the game was not designed to not be backlit. That's like the best way I can explain it. This is a game that needs a backlight when you're playing it. If you don't have that backlight, oh my god, it's such a pain. So I remember in my bedroom I had a lamp, and I would position that lamp perfectly just so I could see the screen and play this game. I loved this game. I played the heck out of it, and I did eventually beat it. But dear God, the lack of a backlight, Nintendo. They fixed it with the Game Boy Advance SP. But that lack of a backlight really hurt it. Sadly, I do not have my original copy or even my original Game Boy Advance. Long story short, I was between jobs at one point for about 2 months or so, and I ended up sadly pawning off my Game Boy Advance and the, I want to say, 8 or 9 games I had collected for it. Of course, that doesn't mean that I didn't play this game anymore. Later on, I did grab a Game Boy Advance SP, and I loved that thing. Still got it, but yeah, the fact that it had that rechargeable battery, didn't have to mess with buying batteries for the thing anymore. It had a backlight, for the love of God, which like made this game eminently more playable on it. And just that tiny clamshell design. I still say to this day, there is no handheld that is more pocketable than the form factor of the original Game Boy Advance. It was just absolutely perfect for its time. But on top of that, I got what was kind of new to me at the time. They had flashcards. So you could buy a Game Boy Advance cartridge that was kind of blank, and there was software that you could get that would add a menu, and you can add some ROMs to it. You could add, like, I think mine, I could probably hold like maybe 10 to 20 Game Boy Advance games. And so I replayed that Castlevania game using that flash card. So, of course, since I did it that way, we all know it's coming next, right?
Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
In my defense, I'd already bought the game once, right? So, yeah, not gonna lie, I did totally pirate the heck out of the Game Boy Advance stuff back then, but a lot of these games I had already purchased and pawned off, so I felt justified, at least with those. Maybe some of those other games we won't talk about, but yeah, really enjoyed my playthrough of this game back then, and one thing that's kind of interesting, a lot of people call it one of the hardest Castlevania games out there. I still think that the NES games are significantly harder, but maybe it's because I'm used to this game. Like, I've seen a ton of people refer to the Dracula fight in this game as absolutely insane. And it kind of can be if you don't know the pattern, but the pattern you can kind of figure out too. One of your last upgrades you get is like a moon jump almost, where you shoot way up in the air. So Dracula has some very quick and some very screen-filling attacks, but you can easily dodge him by just doing that moon jump right before he kicks it off, and there's a flash from him that'll happen. So, like, I don't find the boss fight that hard, to be honest with you. The one thing that is hard is that no matter what armor you have, no matter what your defense rating, he does a good chunk of damage to you, but that's kind of to be expected for a final boss, isn't it? I mean, I would think so. But there is quite a few bosses in this game, too. You start out with Cerberus, then you come up with the Necromancer, which the Necromancer is an interesting one, because I thought I was fighting death right off the bat, and I'm like, oh crap, that's quick. But no, it's just the Necromancer. Then you fight the Iron Golem, and this guy can be a little tricky if you haven't, like, either found some upgrades to your character in the form of something I'm getting ready to talk about, or if you just don't have a lot of attack power, because he can heal himself. Always a bad thing, but yeah, thankfully, randomly some enemies in this game, certain ones, will drop cards. And the cards start off something called the DSS system. So, it's a shame they didn't bring that back whenever the DS was around, right? But you can use 2 cards, one from one deck and one from the other deck, because I believe you get like 2 decks of like maybe 10 cards each. And you can trigger an effect. Some of these effects are very basic, like the drop rates for the first 2 are very high. You're probably going to find them very quickly. And if you activate them together, you'll get a Flame Whip. Well, another card will drop later on. If you activate that same card from the top deck with that new card, you'll get a Thorn Whip. And each card will give you certain advantages. Most of the time, by the time I unlock it, I unlock a Poison Shield, which sprays poison all around your character. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It only does like 1 damage each, but it also immediately destroys a lot of the projectiles that are heading your way. So it comes in really handy, in my opinion. I quite enjoy it. And then there's another card. It is very expensive on magic use, but you can use it. If you stand still, you can heal. So a lot of times, especially in late game, I would cheese that to where I would equip that setup, heal my character as much as I could, put the Game Boy aside and wait while my magic meter recharges, do it again, keep doing that until I'm full of life, then I got all my magic back, and then I go into the boss fight. So I don't know if you consider that cheesing it or not, because most bosses do have a save room where you can recharge fairly close to the boss. Late game, there are usually a few enemies in between you and that boss room, and sometimes they are heavy hitters. So in that case, maybe, you know, it's best to cheese it a little bit like I did. So, going on with the bosses, the next one is Adramelech. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Big ram-headed dude, giant dude, screen filler, has screen-filling attacks. As long as you can keep a decent shield up, though, and you just wail on them, preferably with the cross sub-weapon, because you do still get sub-weapons in this game, too. You get all the favorites for the most part. You get the cross, you get the holy water. Let's see, you get the time stopper. I believe there might be one or two more that I'm forgetting about. You do get the knife and the axe. That might be all of them. But I try to keep that cross equipped, which I think the cross only drops from one particular candle in the game. But this game is very forgiving with the sub-weapons as well, because if you pick up a sub-weapon, unlike the old games where your old one is just gone, the old one will get thrown to the floor. And it'll stay there for about 5 or 10 seconds, so if you didn't mean to pick up that new one, you can go back and pick it up. So, in my opinion, that's a very, very forgiving mechanic. But following through our bosses, the next one can be a game stopper, is the Dragon Zombie. This guy is ridiculous, because there's not one, there's two. You're actually fighting two. And the heads and the necks of the dragons can both cause you damage. The easiest way I found to take him out is very, very risky. But I will get on the platform between the two dragons, and I'll be wailing that cross-sub weapon left and right, while also trying to spam whip hits in. Focus on one. If you can't get to the one head, but you can't get to the other, give it a few hits, but focus on one, take it out, and then this boss becomes a lot easier. But after that, you get death. The death fight in this game, honestly, is pretty easy. If you get that poison shield, all the sickles he's throwing around everywhere can't really get to you. So you can mostly just jump up and wail on him with a whip. He does have some, like, a longer reaching attack. You can either dodge those, or even, honestly, you can probably tank him at this point. He does have a transformation, but after the transformation, he's even easier to attack. Like, he looks like a big skeleton tank-looking thing with two sickles in the front that he'll apparently swipe at you with, but honestly, the death fight isn't too bad. After that, you'll fight Camilla. The Camilla fight, honestly, not too bad in its own right. Again, with the poison shield and the whip, I didn't have any issues with her. And then, a little spoiler for this next boss, so maybe skip ahead if you don't want to hear the spoiler. But you come into the castle with an older teacher and a partner that's a teacher's son. You end up fighting that son. This fight can be a little tricky because he has all the sub-weapons he can use all at once. He can use like a higher powered version of them. He's got a sword swipe, it's fairly easy to dodge. But those sub-weapons he fires out can be very tricky, and they do a lot of damage to you. And on top of that, he has a powered-up form part of the way through the fight. Again, the sword swipe isn't something you gotta worry about a whole lot, but those sub-weapons can just tear you up. And then finally, there's the Dracula fight. The Dracula fight has two forms. First form ain't too bad. Standard Dracula form, he will shoot bats at you for the most part. There'll be the 3 fireball bat, which is a standard attack that he has in most of the other games, except they're bats instead of fireballs. Same thing. He'll have the blue ones, which will fire one out the top and then one out the bottom in like a staggered array that can be tricky. And then he has what I call the electric bats, where they fly in all different directions, and that's probably where you'll take damage. However, after that first fight, he teleports away in the portal. You can go back mid-fight and save your game before the second form, so I highly recommend doing that. Save, recharge, and then go in for that second fight, which can be a brutal fight. You're probably going to die a few times, but once you learn that pattern, you've got it, like, immediately. It's not too bad. And one of the cool things about this game after you beat it, there are unlockables in this game. Different modes. The first mode, the original mode, the regular mode of the game, is Vampire Killer. But there are other modes of this game too. There is the Magician mode, the Fighter mode, the Shooter mode, and the Thief mode. And these games alter the properties of your character. Like, some of the properties give you like a ton of mana and stupid mana recharge to where you can use all the DSS combinations you want. And I think it even gives you all the DSS cards at the start, if I'm remembering right. But your regular attack stat is trash. So you're more or less using the DSS system to its maximum. And that's where this game gets its replayability. It's a pretty long game to begin with. For a handheld game, it's fairly long. But you add that feature to it, man, this game has so much replay value. It is probably... I don't want to say it's my favorite in Game Boy Advance, because I really like Dawn of Sorrow, or Aria of Sorrow. Love that game, just for the storyline, and it got the mix perfect between the music and the graphics. Musically, this game, in my opinion, is great. Graphically, it does the job. Your main character is lacking a few frames of animation, in my opinion, which has kind of hurt it a little bit. It does the job, though. But I recently replayed this on the Steam Deck on the Castlevania Advance Collection, so no, you were a pirate music this time. I did legally repurchase it again, and again, I love this game. And I think it's a bummer that they took it out of Castlevania canon. It is not one of the canon Castlevania games. And it's really a bummer, because I enjoyed this game quite a bit. I highly recommend it if you're into the Metroidvania games, if you're a huge fan of Bloodstained or Symphony of the Night. These Game Boy Advance games, all three of them, they're hidden gems in that Metroidvania category that maybe you haven't tried yet, but they're all excellent, especially this first one where it all began. I love the DSS card system. It can be frustrating if you're trying to farm cards from an enemy that just don't want to drop it. I know in my most recent playthrough, I was taking up blood swords left and right, trying to get the card drop from it. Thankfully, the Advanced Collection does have a little feature. It has a little bar that'll pop up that'll tell you if an enemy has a card and if you've collected it or not. Very handy feature, and I definitely abused the heck out of it. But that is my time with Castlevania Circle of the Moon. We're going to listen to one more music track before we roll the outro for this episode. As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Afterglow. Spooky season has just begun. Like I said, I've got at least a couple more games I want to talk about. Maybe more than that. We'll see what time allows in this. We do have a guest coming up for one of the episodes, and that'll be something cool to listen to as well. If you're looking for other podcasts, please check out the Afterglow link tree. The Afterglow link tree, which is in the show notes below, has all sorts of links for many other shows that you can listen to. Two shows that always get a special shout out include Secret Levels, because TobyVonDoom did the logo for the show, and the Lost and Gone podcast, who is also my partner with Grimglow, which will hopefully have another episode coming out very, very soon. He's the guy that did the intro and our outro music. So those two guys always get a shout out. many other friends of the show too, and I will run some commercials for them at the very end of the episode. On top of that, if you want to get a shout out like the people at the beginning of the episode, check out the Patreon. You can sub there and support the show for a single $1 a month, and for that $1 a month, you can get that shout out. I will never charge, however, for any part of the show. Nothing's going to be behind a paywall. Everything's always going to be free to listen to, because honestly, at the end of the day, I just appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to listen to me ramble on about these old video games. I love the fact that the subscriber base just slowly keeps climbing up. That means the world to me. I gotta thank you guys so much for that. There's also a little bit of Afterglow merch if for some reason you want to grab like a magnet, a sticker, a t-shirt. There's a link to all that in there. And then finally, there's a link to the Discord. The Discord is absolutely free to join. Plenty of people in there from the show that have been on there in the past. We've had a new member come in there recently. He brought in some cool conversation. I love seeing new people come in. So if you're listening and you're interested in maybe joining in and having a little bit of a conversation with us, feel free to join in. Discord is like an amazing thing. Like I told our new guy, it reminds me a lot of the old Merc chat. If you're an old school PC guy and you remember Merc, really reminds me of like the modern day version of that. Absolutely love it. But I've probably been digressing for long enough, right? We're going to call this the end of the episode as soon as I play some sponsored ads from friends of the show.
For more than 15 years, Retro Gaming Roundup has been the centre of your retro gaming universe, with top 10s, interviews, game reviews, news, and much more from all over the globe. Be sure to tune in every month for a new dose of Retro Gaming Roundup. That's RetroGamingRoundup.com.
Hey, this is Toby, one half of the Secret Levels podcast. We're a podcast that goes over old retro games. We go over the history, the story, the gameplay, some fun facts. We even rage a little bit. And then we go and give it a nice 1 to 10 rating to let you know if it's still worth playing. We have over 200 reviews for games on the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and many other consoles. You can find us on all the major podcasting apps, such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us on social media at Secret Levels Pod. Game over, folks.
Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. It's me, Martin, and you can join me on YouTube where I have hundreds of videos covering a huge range of video game topics. I've got top 10s, hidden gems, console-focused A to Zs, as well as dedicated videos to topics like Doom mods, 3D platform games, ninja games, pirate games, and more. I cover all systems from Commodore 64 right up to modern consoles. Nothing gaming is off the table. So be sure to search for the Reviews Brothers on YouTube as well as on Instagram and TikTok for hundreds of retro and modern video game reviews.
Afterglow listeners, it's me, Keith Gasper, coming at you from the #1 retro gaming podcast, the Main Quest Podcast. Come hang out as a guest and I play and discuss a game from the backlog of my childhood. We're talking about our history and the history of the game, and if it's worth checking out today. We're talking about games from the NES, the Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, and much more. And that's just on the main feed. If you enjoy what you're hearing on Afterglow, you're going to enjoy the Main Quest, and I'm happy to have you. Find the Main Quest on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts are downloaded.
Hello, My name is Aaron. I'm one half of Super Pod Saga, a topical variety video game podcast fueled entirely by nostalgia and unleaded gasoline. Super Pod Saga, we discuss a different video game topic each and every week. We have new episodes every single Monday covering a different video game topic. More than anything, we want to entertain our listeners and make you feel like you're one of the boys, like you're hanging out at a campfire with some of your best zany caffeine-powered buddies and just talking about your favorite games and all that stuff. Stop on down to Super Pod Saga. It's on every podcatcher there is. If it's not, let me know and we'll get on it. Again, Super Pod Saga, stop on by.